So we are back here at our regular Sunday interview session, and I, for my part, am very happy to once again show that I'm not only listening to metal all the time, because we have somebody who is, I hope you don't feel offended when I say it, Ben, but I would say more from the indie rock slash pop kind of realm. And I'm very happy to
Definitely.
have Ben here with us, who is the main guy behind Constant Smiles. Thanks for being on the show.
Thanks so much for having me. This is so great.
Would you agree when I say like more from the indie realms?
Definitely. But it is funny. We had this conversation the other day with the label because we were talking about because someone made me a black metal symbol of Constant Smiles,
Yeah.
and so it was like they were like, "Oh, I hate it when bands do that because if you don't make black metal music, it's that's." They were saying it's stupid or something. And I remembered that the very first Constant Smiles song I ever wrote, that's the first song on the first Constant Smiles record, is a black metal. So I thought that was I was like, oh,
Yeah.
wow, I can't believe I started the project with a black metal song. My
Yeah,
attempt at a black metal song. I don't know if anyone would,
yeah, and it's also the way that some black metal fans just simply take their symbols, logos, however you want to call them, they just take them too seriously.
Yeah.
First,
Right.
first question that I always ask is, what is, if you're wearing some kind of band merch today, which stuff is it?
I'm not wearing any band merch. I actually only wear band merch to bed. I basically
Okay.
only wear plain shirts with no writing on it. But
That,
let's but I have been wearing this Phil Lynott shirt that I love to bed a
mhm,
lot.
mhm.
That's
So then I plug once again a few friends of mine, Cranial from around the corner, awesome German post metal. And now you mentioned that you wear your shirts to bed. Now, question: where are we catching you? Where is the bed?
So I'm actually upstate New York right now in Kingston. My girlfriend's recording a record for the month. So I came up to visit her for the week. So
Mhm.
it's been really nice. Yeah.
Okay. And just to get a glimpse of it, so Kingston is where? Is it more towards the Buffalo side, or is it more Albany?
It's north of the city, only like an hour or two above New York City. So
Okay. So,
yeah, not close enough. Yeah.
and then related to the new record that you put out, I have to ask that. Which Kenneth Anger film is your favorite and why?
I think Puce Moment is my favorite and the one I watch just all the time. I just
Mhm.
always have an hankering to watch it. First of all, because it's very short, so it feels really just pleasant. The
Mhm.
colors are so beautiful, and the soundtrack to it is incredible. I know he originally he had a different soundtrack, and then he changed it, but I've only seen it with this like home recorded
Mhm.
60s acid folk track. So
Is that also something that in general piques your interest or ignites your interest when a movie has a good soundtrack?
definitely, yeah. I mean, I think the best movies are the ones that combine all the elements,
Mm.
I mean, bad music can ruin the movie, and good music can make a bad movie better, you know.
That was
Since
just what
I'm
I wanted to
specifically
ask.
in
Hmm?
music, since I'm specifically interested in
Mm.
music, it's really
Uh,
the main thing. But with Kenneth Anger's films, a lot of time I'll just turn the volume off and play guitar or synth while watching
Okay,
them, so that's kind of what I
so
did with this new record.
we'll come to that in a moment. So in some ways, you use his movies as direct inspiration for your stuff, then, correct?
Definitely. Yeah, yeah. I mean, particularly in college, I was watching them all the time.
Mhm.
And I don't know why recently I think I just started playing around with synths again, and I was listening to a lot of synth music, and his bright colors, especially in like Inauguration of Pleasure Dome, really like makes me think of synthesizer music, and
Mhm.
it just made me want to like watch his films again.
I can see where you're coming from, because of course synths very often are associated with the 80s, and when you look at some of his movies, I hope you agree when I say his movies sometimes have a color palette that reflects or resonates some kind of the 80s pastel and bright happy colors vibe, right? It's not too dark.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there was a huge. I'm sure you could trace the line of inspiration from him to the '80s, like bright colors stuff. But yeah, it definitely. I know exactly what you mean. Yeah, I love that kind of thing in film, and yeah, it's great.
So
Like really exaggerated.
for everybody who hasn't or who doesn't know what we're talking about an American film director called Kenneth Anger, and he is also the title to Constant Smiles' new record, which will be out in a few days from now. And then
Sure.
the thing is, when I listen to the new record, it sounds to me as if we witness you and the collective that is Constant Smiles, but especially you. We witness you at, can we say, a transformational time?
Definitely, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think
Eh,
it's. I mean, it's always a transformation. You know, your life. I
mhm,
think that's what is so great about art or anything that you're exploring is you really are trying to find, for me at least, I'm trying to find out more about myself and
mhm.
others, and through sound, and it's really a therapy for me, and yeah.
And then, can you say what is, if you want to say it, what is the biggest change that you went through while writing and recording the new album?
well well I stopped well, I got sober like 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago,
Mhm,
and that was kind of the start of a new way of life and a real like shift in
mhm,
perspective.
mhm,
And I got out of a really long-term relationship and really had to refigure out life, and sort a lot of things that things in life that I
mhm.
had pushed aside, and so I think that was the beginning of it. And then while making this record, I think I really had to it really just felt like a clarification. Even with the themes of Kenneth Anger's films, it felt like it's like, okay, really settling into myself and trying to be really comfortable with who I am and figure out everything. And then I got into a new relationship, which I'm really happy about. And it's like just all those things about exploring how to be a better person, a better friend, better to myself, and just really, you know, constant work on yourself.
That I think also shows a lot in the lyrics, because I have a feeling as if I hear a lot of introspect lyrics, and a lot of lines are from a first person perspective. So is the record your way of coping with all those transformational elements that went through your life, or is it just something that kept you busy?
Definitely, it's definitely coping. It's exploring and figuring out things through, it's definitely a form of therapy
Hmm?
to because the way I write lyrics too is I freestyle all the lyrics, and then I write down the freestyle and I kind of tweak it to, but it's just always amazing to me how much when you're just stream of consciousness, how much is inside that you needed to sort through, so it's always interesting. It's always a helpful process. And I think also, before I got sober too, I made a lot of art in kind of distracting myself and just kind of like this kind of drug process, of like it just it's also very therapeutic, and it was then, and it was really helpful to sort out things as well, but it was also just like constantly making stuff. And now I think this record felt much more like, okay, how do I do this in a healthy way? How do I take my time and not feel the pressure to keep hammering things away,
Is it also in a way trying to show people that this process, this ever developing and ever changing process, is completely okay?
Sure,
That it's fine
yeah.
to go through that?
I think so. I mean, I didn't quite think of it that way. I just, I mostly just do it for myself. But I think so, just because, I think especially with art, maybe this is just my perspective, but there's a lot of like emphasis on being, a mess and being, or at least a lot of the artists I love, or drug addicts and maybe suicide and, just like kind of the crazy artist. But it was people, kind of like David Lynch or Mark Maron or, I don't know, you could go on forever. Those are just at the top of my heads. But people like that are seemingly just really, working on themselves and have it together to where you're not, you can operate in the world and you can make great art while still being a good person. And yeah.
Do you have an idea why so many people, or do you have maybe an explanation for yourself why so many people nowadays are struggling with inner demons and those problems?
Well, I mean, life is definitely life. It's always going to come at you, and I think it's for me, it was pretty easy to shy away from it with substances, and it's much easier to do things that way than it is to face it and try and work through it, so. But it only really, for me, it only made it worse. It just kind of like bottles it up like a dam, but all that stuff's still building up, you know what I mean? So
going back to the lyrics of a new record, what I also saw is that sometimes it seems as if you are observing yourself from an outside perspective, and you are doing so by giving us lines like, what is it? I know it's hard to be you. So as if you're looking onto you or onto somebody else and saying like, okay, I know it's hard, whatever you're going through. Why did you also sometimes use that change of perspective? Why jump from first to third person narrator or perspective?
Well, for that song, I was specifically thinking of friends that, and just people I love that are having a hard time in life. And yeah, so that song was specifically trying, I think just in the process of getting myself together, you get a lot of empathy, hopefully, for the people around you. So that song was really kind of about that, just about.
You just mentioned like the people around you. Correct me if I'm wrong, but trying to find out how to address constant smiles. Is it I mean, like, you are the main guy behind it, that is clear, but is it a project for, is it like a collective, or is it more like a real band?
I mean,
Or
I
is it
kind of think
both?
of it as both. Yeah, I kind of think of it as both, honestly. But it's really just whoever is around. You know, I
Mhm,
always love collaborating with people, and I
mhm,
love hearing basically every song or anything I do I send it out to all my
mhm,
friends and we talk about it. And,
mhm.
so this record had so many people involved because just so fun to, I just love talking to my friends and hearing what they're working on and working on
Mhm.
stuff together and talking stuff out. It's like, it's really the funnest to collaborate with people.
And then how much of your friends' feedback do you take, or how much did you take in this case? Did you take and then use as some kind of refiguring the songs, tweaking, twisting?
It really depends.
Mhm,
Um, I definitely, listen to a lot of what everyone says, and I kind of I really trust all my friends
mhm,
and their opinions.
mhm,
I take it all to heart. But definitely, like, a lot of songs on the record, we we wrote so many songs for it. So
mhm.
a lot of the feedback too comes to just whittling the songs down, people's favorites, and you know, so yeah, like there are some songs I didn't think to put on the record that people felt really strongly about. So
Mhm. Which then again shows that you're very open towards other people's opinions. But how does the songwriting process go? So you write the songs, you said you send them out, and then
yeah, so
you.
I'll write the song and I'll basically record them all, demo them all myself, playing all the instruments for the most part. And then kind of, I'll send them to people and we'll see, I can usually tell when they like something or don't like something and we'll
Of
talk
course.
about it. Yeah, whatever. And then the songs that really people are into, they'll have feedback on, and then we kind of whittle the songs down and, you know, someone will be like, oh, we'll just see what the song needs, maybe
Mhm.
needs vocals and or whatever it is, basically, yeah, whatever we think someone might fit on, we try to get them on. And then when it really starts, I honestly don't like to think too much about the writing process. I just try to write as much as I can and then
Mhm.
whittle it all down. And then whatever the best songs are, then we really dig into it. It's like,
Mhm.
oh, we should put piano here and that kind of thing. Because
But that.
I hate tweaking songs that are bad songs. So
Yeah, of course. Because it's just a waste of time, right? Uh,
yeah, exactly.
but it also sounds a lot like, how should I say? It sounds like time consuming, actually, as if it takes a lot of time to prepare the stuff before you go into the studio, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. It's usually like a year of writing,
Mhm.
I think. And then we whittle it down. And then when it's finished, that's when we really dig into the actual songs and,
Mhm.
what the best ones are. And then that's been the new process, because we've been going into the studio. It, yeah, and there's money involved. We try to have everything really together before we go into the studio. So
And when you write your stuff, your songs, when you come up with the first ideas, which is your go-to instrument for doing so?
well, it depends. On this record, it was all synth,
Mhm.
basically.
Mhm.
Oh, there's only a couple of songs I wrote on guitar. I think there's only two.
Mhm.
Um, but right now, it's either guitar or synth for the most
Mhm.
part, or piano,
I
but
I I can see that, yeah. So it takes a lot of time to write those songs. I can imagine that. But at the same time, you have put out a lot of records. And what strikes me is on many of the records, the cover shows a person. I guess that is not coincidentally so.
I guess. In what way? I mean, all the covers I try to match the feeling of the record or the inspiration, you know.
But then again, like many have a person's face on them. Is that something where it's like, oh, I just simply like that kind of colors or cover style, having a person on the cover, or is it something that is just random?
I mean, definitely not random. For instance, like the new one, I really wanted this still from a Kenneth Anger movie from Scorpio Rising. That's basically the exact same image that I use, but we couldn't figure out how to get the rights to it. So my girlfriend had the idea to just reshoot it with myself, which was not very comfortable for me, but it felt fitting for the record too, to really like, okay, put myself in an uncomfortable position and try and it's very open lyrically about my life, so feels like just put myself out there and be as
it's
open
fitting.
as I can.
It's fitting to the record, definitely.
fitting.
Something that also is cool about the new record and about a lot of other stuff that you did is that sometimes I have a feeling as if you're Trojan horsing the people. You give them music that on the surface level is nice and poppy and a little bit indiness and cool elements. And now you've got this synth thing, which is awesomely done and also right for this point in time. But when you listen to it and when you read the lyrics, you see like, oh my goodness, it's all not shiny, happy people. It's more like there are some dark moments in there. It's like, it's nearly gothic in a way, the way that you expose yourself and the way that you very openly talk about feelings and fears. Is that something that you like about music, being able to give people something to think and at the same time making them dance?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, I guess the best music is, music and words. I mean, if it's lyric based music, but yeah, I love pop music and I love pop hooks, especially at this point in my life. I'm definitely in a pop phase of my life. Like, for instance, I was only listening to The Weeknd and Taylor Swift for making this record, so I was really in a pop mindset.
Okay.
So,
I
and The
don't know why,
Weeknd's
but
record, is lyrically is.
I don't know why, but your image is frozen. I can hear you perfectly.
Yours was a second ago too.
I got no idea why.
Oh, funny.
But let's go into this a little bit more. You've already said like you've been listening to Taylor Swift, you've been listening to The Weeknd a lot. Are those people that influence you, or where you just simply see some kind of similarity?
Yeah, definitely influence. I mean, specifically, basically, The Weeknd's After Hours and Taylor Swift's 1989 were the only two records I was listening to when I was making this, for the most part.
Okay.
Some other things too, but I really, when I get into a mode too, like I'm gonna make a synth record, I try to like only listen to music in that genre, synth pop, to like really just stay focused on it.
So were there other synth records that you listened to? I mean, like those are good examples, of course, but were there any other?
Yeah. I was listening to Orchestral Maneuvers in the Dark.
Ooh, well, that's
Great.
interesting.
Yeah. It's funny, it's kind of got a New Order vibe, this record, but I wasn't actually listening to New Order a lot. I was listening to a lot of Gary Newman, who I love, and
His solo stuff or his stuff with the cars?
His solo records. Yeah, his first two, basically. I was listening to that last Hand Habits record a lot. I really like the way they combined synths into it. That was really inspiring. Michael Jackson. I don't know. I was trying to. That was basically. I mean, I was real. After Hours by The Weeknd was. I would listen to that like every single day. I was totally obsessed. So
okay.
Yeah.
What is also striking is the dichotomy between accessibility and sensibility, because not sensibility, sensitivity, because on the one hand, your record is very accessible in a very, very positive way. But at the same time, you show a very, very sensitive side. And is that also for you in general a key to understanding your music?
I think it's definitely a period I'm in. I think before, Prince. I was listening to a lot of Prince, 1999.
Always a good choice.
Always, yeah. Always come back to Prince. He's like, pinnacle. Yeah, I mean, this period is definitely that. If I think I used to write a lot more like guided by voices. Like obviously not trying to compare my lyrics to the great Robert Pollard, but I was trying to make these like abstract things, and then you couldn't really hear what I was saying, so it was really just like clouded in mystery and trying to like conceal myself, but have the music invoke a feeling of what I was going through. Whereas now I feel like I'm trying to connect both and really like have the music and the feeling give music, and the lyrics give what I'm going through, but it's certainly not a conscious decision where I'm like, this is what I'm going to do now. It's just kind of a natural evolution.
Yeah, and I think that also is reflected in the way that you spoke about other people, or being so open to other people's opinions. Because if you made such a conscious decision, it would probably be better not to have other people talk into it so much.
Yeah,
what is
I just
also
trust them. Oh, sorry, go on.
No, you go ahead.
I was just gonna say, yeah, I just trust my friends and everyone that I work with so much, because I'll often be like, this song is a hit, this is the best song I've ever written, and then I'll send it to my bandmates and they're like, yeah, and then a song I think I'll have forgotten about and didn't even remember writing, they'll be like, that's the one.
Is there a track on the new record where your friends said that one has to be on it?
Yeah, specifically, let me see. I Hope You're Well. My friend Katie Garcia, who owns Bayonet Records, she's so amazing, and I just trust everything she says. But she was like, that's the best song. And I was like, really? I wasn't even going to put that song on the record. And so, yeah, it went on. And then, yeah. So.
And do you now also see that one as one of your best songs on the record?
It's not my favorite song on the record, but I like it a lot more now. Definitely.
Do you also, because that's of course interesting, do you like the way it is now? Or did you also, after she gave you that feedback, did you also already like the old form it had?
What do you mean?
Well, you said that you like to listen to people and what they say about your songs, and that you then also incorporate their opinions. You twist it a little bit, you tweak it a little bit, and all of that before you go into the record studio. So you've now said that you like that particular track a lot. So the question is, do you like the new version a lot or after her feedback, did you also already like the earlier version of it?
Yeah, it didn't stick out to me at all, that song. I had actually forgotten about it. And now that she said that, and I really like it. Yeah, and I'm very happy with it.
And one thing that I've forgotten to ask is you seem to be a highly productive person, because when you look at your Discogs, when you look at Bandcamp, there are loads of records by Constant Smiles, and all of them have a huge good quality, which is also striking. Oftentimes,
Thanks.
yeah, oftentimes you have artists who like put out 3 records a year, and 2 of them are, you know what I mean. But that's not the case in your that's not the case in your case. Do you, and you said everything you write you send out to your friends, so that means that basically you are already writing new stuff again, right?
Yeah, we're working on another record, and this one's going to be much more, at the moment, much more acoustic guitar. I'm trying to write it. This one feels much more like a band record. I'm trying to write it with the band, and with, the band members that are, basically, because a lot of our band members are all over, spread across different areas, so I can't necessarily work with them all the time. But yeah, I'm trying to make a real stripped down, more finger picking acoustic guitar record.
Interesting. And that one should see the light of day in 2023 or later?
Probably 2020, hopefully 2024. I want to put out, my goal is really to put out a record a year, or if not put a record out a year, finish a record every year. I just trying to slow down. I used to just stress myself out. I'd be like, I have to write so many songs. I'd try to write like 2 or 3 songs a week, or something. I'd just try to write as many songs as I could a week. And now I'm trying to really slow down and just write 1 song a week, and try and put out one, not even put out, just have 1 record done every year. And whether they come out or not, or they morph into other records, I'm fine with that. But just to pace myself and not stress myself out, because I have like these imaginary, like, I gotta work on it, So
yeah, I can understand. Like, I gotta do this, I gotta finish that, and and your day only has 24 hours, right?
Exactly.
I have 2 more questions before we come to the quickfire round. On your website, one sees a picture of a Juddy, like a room. And is there a Dead Moon?
Good eye. Dead Moon record. Yeah, I love that record. It's funny you talked about merch. That picture is kind of like a wall of Mississippi records. I love that record label, and that was like,
So, but with Dead Moon, it's probably not just 1 record; it's the whole oeuvre, right? That they did and do.
Yeah, I love them. They're so great.
And then you've already hinted at it. Right next to it, I know it is a record cover, and I'm also very, very sure I have already seen it. But on the picture on your website, I couldn't figure out what it is. So please enlighten me. What is it? You have this Dead Moon thing, and then next to it.
I don't have the picture in front of me, but I think it's an Abner J record.
Yeah,
that was also put out by Mississippi, or it could be there's a Syl Johnson record. The box set.
No, I think it was the first one. That is very cool. Yeah. Of course, for nerds like me, that's something that we always want to know, right? The last question before the quickfire round. Your album is called Kenneth Anger. How much do you like the REM song?
They have a song called Kenneth Anger?
No, but they have a song like What's the Frequency, Kenneth?
Oh, funny. I don't even know that song. I got to check it out now.
Yeah. It's one of our mid-90s singles.
Okay, so great.
We're here at that point where our interview partners don't know what will happen or which questions they will get, our infamous quickfire round. You always get two alternatives, like roses versus tulips. You have to choose one of them and maybe give a short explanation for your choice. As you're from New York, I'll make it simple. The Mets or the Yankees?
I have no idea. I don't follow baseball at all.
But you at least know it's baseball. A few weeks ago, I had somebody who was like, that's sports, right?
I feel like I would get hate from either side, no matter what you think.
Okay, Rockefeller Center. So atop of a rock, Rockefeller Center, or the platforms on the or atop the Empire State Building. Which one would you rather choose to look at the city?
Oh man, I don't know. Maybe I've never been to Top of the Rock, and I haven't been to Top of the Empire State since I was a kid. So maybe I'll just say Empire State, just because it's a beautiful building. I love that building.
It is. And also when you think about the fact that this building was built in such a short time, it definitely is. However, I would always choose. I think it was something like less than a year.
What?
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Yeah. Anybody, if I'm wrong, tell us in our socials. But I'm pretty sure it was less than a year.
Top of the Rock, though?
I would choose Top of a Rock for the simple reason that if I take a picture of Top of a Rock, I have the Empire State on it.
Oh, nice one. Good answer.
Yeah. Last New York related question.
Okay.
Where would you rather go for, like, sitting at the beach and maybe taking a swim? Somewhere in the Hamptons or Coney Island?
I've never been to either, so I would say Coney Island.
Because it's closer, right?
Yeah, and that's where the Warriors are from, so.
Yeah. So, getting into music, Bob Dylan versus Neil Young.
Wow. I'm such a big fan of both, but I guess Bob was very inspirational to me as a kid, like especially in high school. I was obsessed. I had every single Dylan record. So I think I'd have to go Bob just because he was so important.
Do you have a favorite Dylan album?
Yeah, the only one, it's so specifically high school for me. It's hard for me to listen to him anymore, but I still can go back to the later, after the motorcycle years, like Basement Tapes is still my favorite. And, I can still do that kind of era. John Wesley Harding and Self-Portrait, Nashville Skyline, that era I can still do, but it's I don't go back too often anymore. Basement Tapes.
Yola Tango versus Low.
Yola Tango for sure. I love Yola Tango.
Bright Eyes versus Sufjan Stevens.
I don't care for either, actually.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. That's fine. Honest answers are always the best answer.
Sure, they're great stuff, but never caught me.
If anybody asked me, I would go with Bright Eyes, but only for the Lifted album. That is an album that I really, really like a lot. Okay. And I don't care for Sufjan too much. And if anybody wants to spread hate on me, yeah, I do so. I don't know why.
I'm sure they're both great.
Depeche Mode versus Erasure. Some 80s synth pop.
I don't know Erasure.
No. So then you must go with Depeche Mode, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so. Do I got to check them out?
You also hinted at a love for the movies. So let's give you two for that. Tarantino versus the Wachowskis.
The Wachowski brothers?
Yeah, now it's the Wachowski sisters.
Oh, yeah, right. Even though they didn't do the last Matrix together, I wonder if they're not working together anymore.
I don't know, but still, Tarantino or the Wachowskis.
I would say Tarantino. I'm a sucker. Kill Bill is like one of my favorite movies.
I guess I already know the answer to the next one, but Cronenberg versus Lynch.
Lynch, yeah, I gotta go Lynch. But I love Cronenberg too.
Okay. When we talk about New York and movies, of course, we cannot get around asking the question, De Niro or Woody Allen?
I guess I'll go De Niro.
Okay. And last one, because I could imagine that you got a good opinion on art, visual arts. And you've been talking about a love, not a love, but understanding the outsiders and stuff like that. You get two alternatives from the 19th century, Van Gogh or Toulouse-Lautrec. So either cutting your ear off or always going to the brothel.
Yeah, I love Lautrec. It's so beautiful.
Okay, cool. Very interesting choice. I also do. I would probably go Van Gogh, but just because I like his way of painting a lot. So,
I was just in
Ben,
Chicago. I saw some Lautrec in person, and they were so beautiful. So
I can imagine.
Yeah.
So, Ben, thanks for taking your time. All the best with the new record.
Thank you.
Please, everybody, check out Kenneth Anger, which will be out at the beginning of March. It's beginning of March, right?
3rd.
And so check it out, and please also look up the lyrics, because you will find a lot of highly interesting things in there, and you can probably see why it caught me so much. Ben, thanks for being on the show.
Thanks so much for having me. It was so nice.
Thank you.
So nice to meet you.